What form of martial arts did you learn, and are you a black belt?
I am a black belt. I received my first degree black belt in 1968, 2 weeks before my 18th birthday. Since then, I've been elevated to the rank in 2013 to the rank of 10th degree, uh, along with 10 others, or 9 others. There were 10 of us promoted by the founder of our system, Tracy Kenpo, and I currently hold the rank of 10th degree.
Why did you choose Kenpo?
It's an interesting story, actually. It's almost like Kenpo chose me. I was a very good boxer when I was younger. I started boxing when I was 8 years old at the YMCA under the tutelage of Denny Johnson, and he saw promise. He thought I was pretty good, and he started sending me to camps held at San Jose State by Coach Julie Menendez, who had coached the United States Olympic boxing team several times and was coach of the San Jose State University boxing team. And he began grooming me to come to San Jose State to box on his team on a scholarship. And unfortunately, somebody got killed in competition, and NCAA dropped boxing, and ultimately that dream went away. But my 8th grade school teacher, Dave Cardenas, was a very good boxer. He was a Korean War veteran, and he had a ring taped off in the back of the classroom and boxing gloves there, and he used to give a reading assignment, and then he'd have me and one other guy come back and glove up, and he'd coach us in our boxing. I stopped by to see him after wrestling season concluded. I was able to wrestle in high school under Coach Pat Lovell. He was the first American to ever medal in the Olympics in wrestling. And I was stopping by to see Mr. Cardenas, and he said, "Forget boxing. I want to show you this thing I'm learning now. It's called Kenpo." And he showed me some Kenpo movements for about the next hour, and that was it. I had to do that. I proceeded home, enlisted the help of my friend Rick Harper, and we convinced our parents to let us start studying. There were only 2 martial arts schools in town. One was a Korean style, and the other was the Tracy's Kenpo School, which was where Mr. Cardenas was studying, and that's where we went.
What prominent martial artists have you been associated with?
Well, outside the martial arts, people probably haven't heard of a lot of them, but like I say, I was coached in boxing by Julie Menendez. He coached Cassius Clay, who later became Muhammad Ali, to a gold medal in the Olympics. He coached Joe Frazier. I wrestled under Pat Lovell, who was one of the all-time greats. When I was at San Jose State, I was able to get college course credits for taking judo as a PE course and learned from Yoshi Ishida, who's legendary in judo. Studied under the Tracys, and subsequently was able to learn from Ed Parker and a number of other prominent Kenpo stylists. In 1990, I began studying Danzen-ryu Jiu-Jitsu under Professor Sig Kufroth. And from him, I also learned the Danzen-ryu healing arts. Beyond that, I mean, I'll take anything anybody's giving.
What are the healing arts?
Well, the healing arts, well, let me give you the complicated answer. The martial art of Kenpo is broken into 3 physical disciplines accompanied by 3 spiritual or philosophical disciplines. There's the lethal arts, the non-lethal arts, and then what we call evasion. Each one has the physical components, each one has the philosophical component. Then the entire art is made up of the war art, the non-lethal art, and the healing art, which is the other side of it. The healing art basically is manipulation of the nervous system to deprive muscle of nervous stimulation, then break muscle down that's been injured or spasmed or knotted, and allow it to heal itself.
I've heard of a program you instituted called Rehabilitation Through Kenpo. Can you tell us what this is?
Well, Rehabilitation Through Kenpo is a program that I began to help brain-injured veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. My son was the crisis management officer for the San Jose Police Department, and that's who the police go to when they have troubles. And he noticed that a lot of the returning veterans were having difficulties concentrating, up to, in severe traumatic brain injury cases, unable to control their anger. And they began identifying this. They found that though it was usually a blast that precipitated it, most of the brain injury was caused by the fall that came subsequently. He was working with the Veterans Administration and their rehabilitation arm, which is referred to as Services for Brain Injury. I offered to teach a class in falling to maybe minimize some of those further injuries with the brain injured veterans. And they asked for a total study, a 12-week study, to see why this martial art would be better than others. And I explained to them what we do. There's the mental, the physical, and then the spiritual. And they thought I was some kind of a religious nut. And I had to explain that what we're talking about in martial arts and spiritual is the spirit of the warrior. And it's very hard to define, but it's essentially that thing which makes you keep going when your body says I can't and your mind says I won't. Some people refer to it as controlled rage. Whatever it is, it's a force, it's a power that you well up inside yourself. You have to learn to ignite it, but in martial arts, you have to learn to control it. And then after you control it, you learn to channel it, and it makes you very, very powerful. I found that in the 12-week study, the veterans didn't really care for conventional physical therapy, but they sure loved learning Kenpo. Learning how to defend themselves, making themselves consequential again, learning that just because they were confined to a wheelchair for the rest of their lives doesn't mean that they can't take care of themselves. These guys were fighters, warriors. They don't want to throw beach balls around. They want to learn how to defend themselves. And the program was overwhelmingly successful. The 12-week program, their strength, flexibility, peripheral vision, awareness, all rose dramatically, but the one thing that was immeasurable that went off the chart was their self-esteem. They started to feel like they were worthwhile human beings again.
Where did you first institute this program, and have you branched out to other locations?
I instituted the program in California, in San Jose. I passed it off to my senpai, Vance Murakami, who now runs, he's an 8th degree black belt that runs San Jose Kenpo, and he has continued the program there. We tried to branch it out. The only other person I found who could really do it was Doug Schwinn in Grand Junction, Colorado, and he is still running that program. He's also one of my 8th degree black belts. It's requires a high level of cognitive awareness of the art and understanding that you're dealing with brain injured people. And when you go hands on, you have to be very, very careful. One little mistake and you can exacerbate the injury. I'd like to see it done more because it's been so successful. I'd like to see it done nationwide, but that's a task for another day.
Do you know Bruce Lee?
I do. I'll never forget the first thing Bruce Lee said to me when we met. He said, "Would you shut up, kid? I'm talking." My instructor introduced me to him at the 1966 California State Championships in San Francisco. And I was listening to him. He was talking and teaching a group of people around. And I just kept firing question after question after question at him. And finally he pushed me and said, "Shut up, kid. I'm talking here."
How did your martial arts background help you as a police officer?
Well, Kenpo is a very, very demanding discipline. It requires 100% of your attention, and it requires a level of awareness of many things that you don't even think about until you start studying martial arts and working in the different environments that you find yourself in and training at the school. So yes, it kept me alive. I didn't intend for the book to be about martial arts, but there's no way to separate it. The fact is, I wouldn't be here today had it not been for the skills I learned and the training that I got. And people tend to dismiss some of the dangerous situations I was in by saying, well, you were a black belt, you could handle that. My margin of error was very, very thin out there. And I was one, maybe two workouts away. If I had missed, I probably wouldn't be here today.